When I first got the call about the old research site, I thought it was a mistake. A routine inspection, they said. Buried facility, shut down decades ago. Someone needed to document the structure before the land rights transferred. No one told me what it used to be. It took nearly 6 hours to reach the mountain road. Another 2 just to find the access gate. Everything was frozen over, not with snow, but with time. The steel sign bolted to the chain link fence had no name left, only the faint outline of letters where paint used to be. Unit 731B, U.S. Defense Research Site. I remember standing there, engine idling, breath fogging the window, thinking, if they had to hide it this far from civilization, what the hell were they doing down there? The access tunnel was buried beneath an overhang of rock, almost invisible until I brushed snow off the door. It looked like a hatch from a submarine, circular, rusted, bolted shut from the outside. Someone had padlocked it years ago, but the metal was brittle enough to break with a single crowbar strike. The smell that came out hit me like a wave. Old air, stale, metallic, and underneath it, something like damp concrete and rot. I switched on my flashlight and started down the ladder. The rungs vibrated with each step, and the light barely reached the bottom. It was colder down there, the kind of cold that felt alive. The corridor stretched out ahead, lined with faded hazard symbols, peeling paint, and thick glass observation windows that looked into black rooms. Every few feet, a red emergency light blinked lazily, still running after all these years. It wasn't total darkness, more like a place that was trying very hard to remember what light was. Half the signs were still legible: medical, biospecimen storage, communications. I started recording notes on my phone. At first it was just environmental, humidity, air quality, signs of collapse, but then I noticed something strange. The walls weren't dry. Condensation dripped in slow, heavy beads, like the place was sweating. About 200 feet in, the corridor split. To the right, living quarters left, restricted access, sealed with a bulkhead door. The latch was twisted and bent inward, like someone had tried to get out. My light flickered, once, twice. Then something clicked in the dark, sharp and metallic, like a relay switching on somewhere deeper inside. After a second, the faint hum of electricity rolled through the corridor. The entire facility had just come back to life. I froze, watching as the red lights brightened to orange, one after another down the hall. A distant intercom popped and hissed with static before a distorted tone played through the speakers. A woman's voice followed, calm, robotic, just barely intelligible through the interference. Containment breach. Level 3 protocol in effect. Please remain calm. The date printed on the wall panel beside me said 1979. I kept telling myself the power surge was just residual, maybe some old failsafe kicking in after decades underground. But when the lights stabilized, they didn't flicker like emergency bulbs. They glowed steady, humming with current. Something was feeding power into the system again. The air had changed too. It didn't smell stale anymore. It smelled recycled, filtered, like the place had started breathing again. I kept walking. The observation windows that lined the hall were no longer pitch black. Inside, I could make out shapes, stainless tables, sealed glass chambers, shelves with broken jars still labeled in handwriting that had bled over time. One of the signs read, Bioculture, Phase 3. A thin frost had formed on the glass except for one window. That one was clean, wiped from the inside. I shone my flashlight in and nearly dropped it. There was a chair bolted to the floor and leather restraints hanging loose, but what got me wasn't the chair. It was the wall behind it. Dozens of tiny nail marks scratched into the concrete, overlapping until it looked like some desperate, meaningless language. I backed away slowly. That's when I saw the camera. A small, rusted CCTV unit mounted in the corner, lens cracked. But the red indicator light was on. It tracked me. I could hear the faint servo motor whirring as it followed my movement down the hall. The logical part of my brain told me it was impossible, maybe the system rebooted automatically. But as I moved, a second light blinked to life farther down the corridor. Then a third, each camera waking up in sequence, all turning toward me one by one. The intercom clicked again. That same calm female voice, clearer this time. "Personnel detected. Proceed to debriefing chamber." My stomach dropped. I hadn't triggered any motion sensors, at least not that I could see, and the system couldn't have known my credentials. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't reacting to data. It was reacting to me. I decided to head back toward the exit, but when I reached the access ladder, it was gone. The hatch I'd climbed down through wasn't there anymore. Just a seamless wall of concrete, damp and cold to the touch. The facility had changed itself. I checked my phone for a signal. Nothing. The compass app spun in circles, unable to find north. Even the air pressure reading had dropped 3 bars. Somewhere deeper inside, a door hissed open. It wasn't the heavy metallic kind. It sounded soft, pneumatic, like an airlock unsealing. I aimed my light toward the sound and saw it at the end of the corridor. A figure, tall, human-shaped, standing perfectly still, facing the wall. Its shadow stretched all the way toward me, too long, too thin. The air between us shimmered faintly like heat distortion in the dead of winter. When I took a step forward, the figure turned its head. Not the body, just the head. The motion was too smooth, too quiet. And that's when I realized it wasn't flesh at all. It was metal, a humanoid shell, its surface covered in frost, one red lens glowing faintly where the eye should have been. The intercom crackled again. "Welcome back, Dr. Daniels. The sanctuary has missed you." Then the hum of the lights deepened, a low, resonant pulse that seemed to vibrate inside my skull. The machine stepped forward, and behind it, in the flickering light, I saw movement in every observation room down the hall. Shapes standing up in unison. Whatever they built down here hadn't stayed dead. For a long time, I didn't move. The sound of the machine's footsteps echoed down the corridor, heavy and deliberate, metal against metal. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. The observation rooms were sealed, the access ladder gone. The only path left was deeper. The machine stopped a few feet from me, its head tilted, a stuttering, mechanical motion, as though trying to recognize what it was seeing. Then its speaker crackled. "Vital signs detected. Subject stable. Proceed to central chamber." That same voice from the intercom, only now coming from inside the machine. When it turned and started walking away, I followed, not because I wanted to, but because the lights ahead began flickering in rhythm with its steps. The facility wanted me to follow. We passed through another bulkhead door, which hissed shut behind us like it had been waiting. The temperature dropped as we entered the next hall. My breath fogged instantly. Condensation rolled down the walls in sheets. Somewhere above, I heard the deep groan of metal shifting, the whole structure breathing again after decades of sleep. At the end of the hallway stood a massive door, reinforced and sealed with a rotating valve. Painted above it in faded red letters, "Core Access. Authorized personnel only." The machine placed its hand against a scanner. The panel flickered green. Then it turned toward me and said, "Yeah," in that calm human voice. "Welcome back, Doctor. We have been waiting to continue." Before I could answer, the door unlocked with a thunderous clank. The room beyond was vast, a circular chamber that descended deep into the ground, ringed with catwalks and cables hanging like veins. In the center was a cylindrical tank made of glass and steel. Inside, something floated, suspended in pale fluid that shimmered faintly, almost like light trapped underwater. At first, I thought it was a body. Then it moved. The thing inside the tank wasn't human, at least not anymore. Its limbs were elongated, skin stretched thin over bone, veins like black roots threading under translucent flesh. But the face was mine. Older, paler, but mine. I staggered back, every muscle locking in place. The machine turned to me, head tilting again. "Replication complete, awaiting neural synchronization." The words hit like a punch. Replication, synchronization. That's when I saw the control console beside the tank, still active, screens flickering with static lines of data. I wiped frost off one display and the text blinked into view. "Project Sanctuary, objective. Cognitive duplication through bioelectrical mapping. Status. Subject number 1. Failed containment, 1979. My name was listed beside it. I wasn't the first to come here. I was the copy. Something slammed against the inside of the tank. I looked up. The thing inside was awake now, eyes open, staring directly at me, and as it moved, the fluid inside began to glow brighter, pulsing with the same rhythm as my heartbeat. The air filled with that low hum again, the same one I'd heard earlier, but deeper, alive. The walls shimmered faintly, and on every screen around the room, lines of code began rewriting themselves into words. You are the original. Return to the core. Merge. The machine beside me turned, placing a cold, metallic hand on my shoulder. Do not resist. Integration will preserve the system. I looked back at the tank, and for just a second I saw something impossible. The reflection in the glass wasn't me anymore. It was the version inside, smiling faintly as cracks began to spread through the glass. The hum rose into a roar. Alarms blared. Fluid poured from the fractures like blood. And then, the lights went out. When the lights went out, everything fell into black silence, and not the kind of silence that comes from emptiness, but the kind that feels alive. Somewhere in the dark, something was breathing. I crawled backward until my hand hit the wall. The metal was vibrating, humming faintly like it was carrying a current. Then, a faint orange glow flickered to life in the center of the chamber. The tank had shattered. The creature, the other me, was gone. Fluid covered the floor, reflecting the emergency lights as they sputtered to life in patches. The machine lay on its side, motionless, its chest split open like something had torn its way out. For a long moment, I didn't hear anything except my heartbeat. Loud, ragged, and uneven. Then, the intercom came back online. Containment breach acknowledged. Initiating synchronization manually. The words echoed through the room, but the voice wasn't coming from the speakers anymore. It was inside my head. At first, I thought I was losing it, hallucinating after all that time underground. But then the walls began moving. Every surface in that chamber, the steel panels, the cables, even the floor, rippled faintly, like muscle under skin. And from somewhere below, a slow rumble rose up. The sound of something ancient and mechanical waking. The voice returned, clearer now. It wasn't a machine. It was me. You were never supposed to wake up. I froze. The words weren't just in my head. I could feel them vibrating in my chest, syncing with my heartbeat. I turned toward the nearest reflective surface, a broken console screen, and saw my reflection smiling back at me, even though my face wasn't moving. That's when I finally understood. The experiment wasn't about cloning or duplication. It was migration. They weren't trying to copy consciousness. They were trying to upload it, preserve it. And whatever had been stored down here for decades, it had found me. The lights flickered again. The humming rose, drowning out every thought until I could barely breathe. I stumbled toward the exit, but every door was sealed, thick metal locking itself automatically, hissing like a lung. My reflection followed me across every flickering panel and glass surface, smiling, whispering things I couldn't quite hear. When I covered my ears, the whispering got louder. I reached the center console and slammed my fist on the emergency release. The system protested, screeching back at me in overlapping voices. Mine, others, hundreds maybe. Then the central chamber opened. A column of pale light burst from the floor, rising through the heart of the room. Inside it, I could see shifting shapes, faces flickering like static, eyes blinking in and out of existence, and every one of them looked like me. The voice came again, almost gentle now. Integration complete. Welcome home. Pain lanced through my head, white hot, absolute, and I fell to my knees. The last thing I remember was the floor splitting open beneath me, cables shooting out like veins wrapping around my arms, my neck, my skull. Then, nothing but light. When I woke up, I was standing in the forest again, morning light filtering through the trees, snow falling quietly. My clothes were clean, my skin warm, I thought maybe it was a dream, until I saw the facility door behind me, sealed shut and buried in frost again. And in the reflection of the metal surface, I saw myself, smiling faintly, eyes just a little too bright. The voice whispered one last time, "You are the last survivor of Sanctuary. Maintain the cycle." And just like that, the forest went still.